Good morning, children. Welcome to our social science class. And today we will be revising the previous chapter, that is Civics, chapter 3, the state government. Okay, children. And in this chapter now, further, we will be revising about the comparison of the Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad. Okay, children. And then we will be learning about the administration of the state. Okay. And now the main part of the administration, the constitutional head of the state is the governor. Who is the constitutional head of the state? The constitutional head of the state is the governor. So we will be learning in detail in this chapter all about the appointment of the governor, how is he appointed, and the term of the office of the governor, for how many years, okay, the tenure, the term of the office of the governor. And then finally, we will also revise about powers of the governor. Okay, what powers and functions the governor has. So here powers of the governor are of 4 types. Executive powers he has, legislative powers, judicial powers, and discretionary powers. So this is all we are going to learn today in this chapter, Civics chapter 3, the state government. So children, I'll be sharing the screen and all of you all please follow. Comparison of the Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad. Okay, children, you understood. We've already learnt about the Legislative Assembly and the Legislative Council. So here we have the comparison. The first point is the ordinary bill can originate in any house. But in case of ordinary or non-money bill, also the two houses have unequal powers. Means the powers, the Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad have different powers. They are unequal. How? First comparison is that the ordinary bill can originate in any of the houses, Vidhan Sabha or Vidhan Parishad. But in case of ordinary or non-money bill also, what happens? The two houses have still unequal powers. How? There is no provision of a joint sitting of both the houses in case of any differences between them. The Vidhan Parishad can only delay the bill for 3 months. So, you know, any bill which is introduced in Vidhan Sabha and Vidhan Parishad, that is the ordinary bill. But the Vidhan Parishad can only delay the bill for 3 months. So this is the first comparison. Now, second comparison is that the money bill are introduced only in Vidhan Sabha. The Vidhan Parishad can delay it only for 14 days. Okay, children. Third point is ministers are responsible only to the Legislative Assembly. And the only power that the Vidhan Parishad has is the right to ask questions. Okay, children. Understood? He has the right to ask questions. Now we come to the fourth and the last comparison, that is the members of Vidhan Parishad do not participate in the election of the President of India. So you understood, children? So on the whole, overall, we have 4 comparison in which money bill can be introduced only in Vidhan Sabha, and the other comparison is the important one, that the members of Vidhan Parishad do not participate in the election of the President of India. So the conclusion is, in brief, it is the Legislative Assembly that occupies a dominant position. Okay, children. Now we go to the next topic, that is administration of the state. So now, as I told y'all, the constitutional head of the state is the governor, who administers with the help of a popular and responsible council of ministers. And then now second part is the union territories. Regarding the union territories are administered by the president, who appoints suitable officers for this purpose. Okay, children. So who is the administration of the state? Okay. So now who is the constitutional head of the state? The constitutional head of the state is the governor, who administers with the help of a popular and responsible council of ministers. Now in detail, we are going to learn about the governor and his powers and functions, appointment and tenure. The governor acts in 2 capacities. Governor is the constitutional head of the state and also an agent of the central government in the state. Okay, so it has 2 capacities. One is he is the constitutional head of the state, and at the same time he is an agent of the central government in the state government. Now, appointment of the governor means, how can a person become a governor? Or another question arises here, who can appoint a person as a governor? So here in this topic, we are going to learn all about in detail for the appointment of the governor. So the president can appoint a person as governor. Who can appoint a person as a governor? The president of the country, who must have the following qualifications. The following qualifications are, first is, who is a citizen of India? The person has to be a citizen of India. Second qualification is that who is not less than 35 years of age. Third qualification is that who is not a member of parliament or any state legislature. And fourth qualification is that who is not holding an office of profit under the government. Means who is not working in any of the government offices or government departments. Okay, children. Now we have the next topic, that is term of the governor's office. The governor holds office for a term of 5 years. He holds office during the pleasure of the president and is accountable to him. So what does this mean, children? What does this mean? These words, that he holds office during the pleasure of the president. So the pleasure of the president means that those who are appointed can be removed by the president. Okay. Again, I am repeating, there's one more meaning. The pleasure of the president means till the president holds his office. This time is termed as a pleasure of the president. Okay, children. So there are 2 things here. By these words here, the pleasure of the president means that till the president holds his office, this time is termed as pleasure of the president. And here in this topic, term of office, also it means that the person holds office, the governor holds office during the pleasure of the president and is accountable to him. So and is accountable to him means The governor means those who are appointed, okay, can be removed by the president. That means the governor can be removed by the president. Okay, children. And now we go further. That is, therefore, the term of 5 years may be terminated earlier. So now you have understood the meaning of the pleasure of the president, means that time till the president holds his office and governor can be removed by the president. So therefore, the term of 5 years may be terminated earlier also. Now we go to the powers of the governor. What are the powers of the governor? Governor has different powers. So we can say he has 4 powers. First is executive powers he has. Okay, children. Second, he has legislative powers. And third, he has judicial powers. And he also has discretionary powers. Clear, children? So now we will learn about in detail the powers of the governor. The first topic, executive powers. All the executive powers of the state government are vested in the governor. He usually exercises these powers on the advice of the Council of Ministers. Okay, children. Now, among the executive powers, the first power is he appoints the leader of the majority party as the chief minister. Okay, children. And he also appoints the other ministers on the advice of the chief minister. Second executive power is he appoints the advocate general, the chairman, and members of the State Public Service Commission also. Third executive power is the governor is consulted by the president while appointing judges of the State High Court. He also appoints the judges of the subordinate courts. Okay, children. And now we have the legislative powers of the governor. So there are 5 legislative powers. Among the legislative powers we have, first power, no bill can become an act unless it is signed by the governor. Second legislative power is he summons the session of the state legislature. Okay, children. And then third power is he can dissolve the legislative assembly on the advice of the chief minister. Fourth legislative power is he nominates 1/6 of the members of the legislative council, that is Vidhan Parishad. Fifth legislative power is the governor can promulgate, or that means issue ordinances. He can issue the acts, laws, and order that is known as ordinances. Now we have the third type of power which the governor has, that is judicial powers. Which powers? Judicial powers. So the governor have judicial powers. They are of 2 types. First, the president appoints the judges of the State High Court in consultation with the governor. Second is the governor grants pardons and may reduce or suspend the sentence or punishment of any person. So these 2 are the judicial powers which the governor has. Now we have the fourth power which the governor has, that is discretionary powers. What are discretionary powers? Discretionary powers allows the governor the freedom to judge what should be done in a particular situation. Understood, children? Discretionary power allows the governor the freedom to judge what should be done in a particular situation. He may not act according to the advice of the Council of Ministers in certain matters. The discretionary powers are as follows. Discretionary power means in which the governor has to decide himself what has to be done in a particular situation, where he would not be able to take the advice of Council of Ministers in some certain matters. Now, these powers are the first one. He may report to the president that the administration of the state may not be carried on in accordance with constitutional provisions. Followed, he may report to the president that the administration of the state may not be carried on in accordance with constitutional provisions. In that case, president's rule can be imposed in the state. Followed, children? In that case, president rule can be imposed in that state. Now, the second discretionary power is he may reserve any bill passed by the state legislature for the consideration of the president. Third discretionary power is the governor has the discretion to appoint the chief minister when no party has an absolute majority in the Vidhan Sabha. So these are the three discretionary powers which the governor has. Now we go to the next topic, that is the chief minister and his cabinet. Okay, children. So as a matter of fact, the chief minister has the same powers in the state as the prime minister has at the center. The governor acts on the advice of the chief minister. If the chief minister enjoys support of the majority of the members, he cannot be removed from his office by the governor. And the chief minister may ask any minister to resign at any time. He is the leader of the legislative assembly. So the chief minister is the leader of the legislative assembly. He presides over meetings of the cabinet. Now, what are the qualifications of the chief minister? Qualifications to become chief minister of a state are the same as those of an ordinary member of the house. The governor appoints the leader of the majority party or a winning alliance as the chief minister. Okay, children. Now we have the powers of the chief ministers. Okay. So the powers of the chief ministers, first power is formation of the cabinet. He forms the cabinet. How? The other ministers are appointed by the governor, but on the advice of the chief minister. So he has the power to form the cabinet. Second power is allocation of departments, means deciding that which minister will be assigned which department. That is known as allocation of departments. So the chief minister may assign any department to any of the ministers. He can ask any minister at any time to resign. Third power is head of the Council of Ministers. So the chief minister is also the head of the Council of Ministers. He presides over the meetings of the cabinet. Fourth power of the chief minister is leader of the legislative assembly. The chief minister is the leader of the legislative assembly. The speaker of the legislative assembly prepares schedule of meetings of the assembly in consultation with the chief minister. So this is the fourth power. He is the leader of the legislative assembly. Now we have the fifth power. Fifth power is principal advisor to the governor. The chief minister is the principal advisor to the governor. The governor appoints various officials on the advice of the chief minister. Okay, children. Now we have the sixth and the last power of the chief minister. That is, the chief minister is a link between the governor and the council of ministers. How? The chief minister acts as a link between the governor and the council of ministers. And what does he do? He communicates to the governor all decisions of the council of ministers. Follow, children. So here powers of chief ministers are 6 in number. First is formation of the cabinet. Second power is he allocates the departments. That is, he can also ask any minister at any time to resign. Then chief minister is the head of the council of ministers. He presides over the meetings of the cabinet. Then chief minister is the leader of the legislative assembly. And fifth power is principal advisor to the governor. And sixth power is a link between the governor and the council of ministers. Now we go to the next topic, that is state administration. So the topic of chief minister is over. Now we take this topic, state administration, political executive and bureaucracy. So what does this mean? State administration, how is it done? Where political executive and bureaucracy is there. So what is the meaning of bureaucracy? Bureaucracy means a system of government in which most of the important decisions are taken by state officials rather than by elected representatives. Followed? So all states have a uniform administrative machinery. We have 28 states and 8 union territories. So all these states have a uniform administrative machinery. The administration of the state is run in the name of the governor, who is the head of the executive. The real political executive of the state is the chief minister. So you understood? Political executive means the real one is chief minister, and bureaucracy means all the other state officials. So here the real political executive of the state is the chief minister, who heads the council of ministers. The ministers look after various departments such as law and order, agriculture, fisheries, local government, health and family welfare, etc. They take policy decisions which are implemented by officials in the ministry. Every ministry has a secretary who is normally a senior IAS officer. Followed, children? Again, I am repeating, every ministry has a secretary who is normally a senior IAS officer. Under him are the joint secretaries, deputy secretaries, under secretaries, other administrative officers, and section officers. So these are the officials. Okay. They implement the decisions and policies of the government. Who implements? They implement. So you understood the real political executive of the state is the chief minister, and every ministry has a secretary who is normally a senior IAS officer, and under him there are joint secretaries, deputy secretaries, under secretaries, other administrative officers, and section officers. And these are the officers, they implement the decisions and policies of the government. The secretary acts as a link between the minister and other administrative officers. The success of the government depends on the efficiency and ability of the bureaucrats. They should be concerned with the welfare of the people in a state. Okay, children. So now, regarding the welfare of the people in a state, the first topic we take, that is health. Health is the most important thing, you know, here in our life. If we are healthy, we can enjoy life. But if we are not healthy, we are sick, we are ill, it is very difficult. It is miserable. So health is defined. How is health defined? Health is defined as complete physical, mental, economic, and social well-being of an individual and the society at large. Health covers a wide range of activities and services. These are, so how do we have good health? Wide range of activities, and these are family welfare measures, including population control. And second is prevention of food adulteration. You know, nowadays we have so much of adulteration in food products. So prevention of that. Then what else is there? Drug control. Then comes eradication of communicable and non-communicable diseases. And the fifth one is nutritional problems. And sixth is environmental concerns. So these are the activities, and health covers a wide range of activities and services. So these are the activities and services which come under the topic health. And this has to be seen by the bureaucrats, and they work for the welfare of the people in a state. So good health. Now we go further regarding the health. So these were the services. Now good health and a long life are essential to a country's economic growth. So children, a country's economic growth is rated by the good health of the citizens of the country. Okay, so good health results in success of individuals and society as a whole. It enables us to save our resources, which otherwise would have to be spent on treatment of diseases. Okay, children. Better health reduces losses in production on account of illness of workers or other employees. A healthy person is more efficient and contributes to the productivity in his workplace. He is also able to enjoy the fruits of development in a better way. Okay, children. Now, our government had set the target of health for all. What is the name of the target? Health for all. And the National Policy on Health 1983 aimed at an integrated approach towards development of medical education, research, and health services for all. So this is what is very important about our health, that we have to take care of our health, and we have to, why we have to take care of our health? Because good health and long life are essential to a country's economic growth and development, and good health results in success of individuals, each one of us, and society as a whole. So now we will go further to the next topic. What are the curative and preventive measures for good health? So in India, the emphasis has been more on curative rather than preventive measures. This means what? This means, we do not take precautions. We do not take preventive measures beforehand in advance, but we wait for ourselves to get sick, to have ill health. Only then we go for a medical checkup or we go to the hospital. But we hardly take precautions beforehand. So in India, in our country, the emphasis has been more on curative rather than preventive measures. So what should we do? Now, curative measures means they imply treating a person after he has fallen ill. And preventive measures imply that we should take sufficient care in advance so that diseases do not spread. Our country is the 7th largest country in the world. We are also the 2nd most populous country on the earth. We lack resources and a large number of people in our country are very poor. Under such circumstances, it is important that we give more importance to preventive. Like for example, now for coronavirus, what are the preventive measures? Preventive measures are wear your mask, instead you wear double mask, use sanitizer, wash your hands with soap and water regularly. These are preventive measures. But when a person is affected by the virus and after that you take all these care, then it is not effective. So in beforehand, in advance, we should take preventive measures. So preventive, we give, what we have to do is, it is important that we give more importance to preventive rather than curative measures. Our government must concentrate more on providing facilities such as safe drinking water, sanitation, that is cleanliness, immunization against certain diseases, and nutritious food. Now, the next topic is need for small dispensaries in rural areas. What is required? Health services are largely provided by city hospitals. This gives greater advantage to rich and urban people, although more than half of our population lives in villages. We should pay more attention to the development of small dispensaries in rural areas. Okay, children. Medicines have become very expensive. The rural poor often have to borrow money in order to get proper treatment during sickness. So it is very sad that in our country, the rural poor people, they have to borrow money in order to take the treatment during they are sick. Next topic is health and medical care in our country. Our achievements in the field of healthcare are as follows. First achievement is the average life expectancy in India is around 62 years. Second is infant mortality rates have come down to 70 per 1,000 live births. Next is the eradication of communicable and non-communicable diseases has been given high priority in India. Plague and smallpox have been completely eradicated. Malaria, filaria, tuberculosis, and leprosy have also been controlled to a great extent. Efforts have also been made to control blindness, polio, cancer, AIDS, etc. Nearly 42% children now get essential immunization against a few specified diseases. We have a huge private healthcare infrastructure. The private sector provides for nearly 80% of the healthcare services in India. Our government is now allocating more funds for healthcare and medical facilities. More medical and dental colleges are being opened. We have an extensive network of 4,045 community health centers. We have more than 1,46,000 health sub-centers to treat people at grassroots level. Each sub-center covers a population of nearly 5,000 in plain areas and 3,000 in hilly, tribal, and backward areas. One primary health center covers a population of 30,000 in plain areas and 20,000 in tribal areas and areas of difficult terrain. Okay, children. The community health centers covers a population of nearly 80,000 to 1,20,000. Okay, children. And next is the children are provided vaccines free of cost. So this is the our government is doing for us, for everybody, for the working for the welfare of the people, that the children are provided vaccines free of cost. Midday meal is provided to school going children in many states. Here you can see in the picture, polio drops are given as a preventive measure to a child, and you can see the picture of a hospital. Now we have the last topic, the conclusion, resource allocation in health. Okay, children. So the government, while undertaking any plan, must take into account the resources and the kind of manpower it has, both skilled and unskilled. The decision regarding resource allocation is taken by the Council of Ministers, headed by the Chief Minister. The government also involves private sector and other agencies in improving healthcare facilities. Okay, children. Now, with the availability of more resources and continued efforts, we may achieve the goal of health for all in near future. Okay, children. So, children, I hope you have followed the chapter and understood it. So what my advice is to go through the chapter, revise it once and remember it, because it will be very helpful for your examination. And you must know about the administration of our state government. So children, by this we have completed the chapter. This is all for today. Thank you for watching. See you in the next class. Till then, take care, stay safe, and have good health. Be healthy and happy.